a little Fox News and West Hartford people, West Hartford citizens. Fox News sources, including other news locations, there have been collusions with people involved with uses of weapons and poisons and mail and wire crimes to cover up their collusions with WFSB, Fox Connecticut News, and next to them, the same with WTNH. Increasingly, as people involved directly and indirectly with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and his co-defendants and their family members. Increasingly timed collusion slash collusions, plural, with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and terrorists. As people involved with the body dumping spot, not far from I put a link to it in this video. Joshua Schumack, I wrote different things regarding him. They change and fake what I write, I noticed. And they already put me in fake communications also at the police station as a kid and then as an adult that weren't at all. And they pretended other. As a kid and then as an adult. At least as an adult, I was there. And I had one sentence, and it was to someone who I spoke through, my Saudi friend. They attached me to fake and changed communications with one of the police, the older Mendez police brothers, involved increasingly with child abusers, leaders of the kids, years apart, and with some black KKK, Latino themed, Italian themed, and people out of the state corrections offices and judicial branch offices. Also with their sexual groups and the religious spots, putting predicate acts with facts, fake transcripts, fake audio and video at campuses, fake ties, fake natures of ties to kids and their family members. And no one's watching this. And so then they have to hide live progressions there, shown that by using all their rules with all natures of investigations, investigators, and crime scenes, and names next to them, and campuses, and names next to them, and databases, relativity before that, but that's hyper additional to it. And the motivations, natures, needs, style. You guys have been blaming other things, others ourselves, for what our founders communicated for us to understand a breaching method reassigned what is communicated by nature with black pupils, whites of eyes, and where it couldn't reassign it, it measured and maintained other things, others ourselves, blamed for its roles with use slash uses of roles with its breaching methods reassignment of the communications by black pupils, whites of eye, and by the science's voices. And by the names of the people of the sciences who could only voice for them or Oslo. But that difference is also exploited. There are lawyers of the FBI Director Robert Luskin, former standing chairperson, racketeering influence of the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act. Increasingly, intelligence people with West Hartford locations, foreign and domestic, are tied to people named Scalora and a Joseph Dennis, a John Dennis, and their family members involved with the intelligence community with New Britain, also with the park and a religious spot next to a park near West Farmers Mall, where Eric Burgess and his mother and his father's relationship and how it's strained by their relationship with the people with the or a narrative regarding such. I don't know if it's true. I never met her mother, father. These are people involved with Hartford courts, with family members and intimate ties involved with Hartford courts, with former director of the FBI and with his co-defendants too before the World Trade Center attack, and with the Hartford courts families with the FBI, individually and grouped and together with a whole bunch of different countries, including Saudis. They forced a collusion slash S with them, with a Dean Judd and his kids, and a whole bunch of people tied to them, involved with intercities through time, all sides of Central Connecticut State University added in New Britain, Connecticut, are people involved with intelligence families that used to live near me, that are involved with multiple police departments, involved with the police that attached me to pay conversations with them as a kid and then as an adult. They're replacing and changing what's digitally recorded, and they're just faking it. And they're doing the same with the mail and with the phones. These are family members that work for the telephone agencies and people tied to them there. They also had collusion slash S years apart, clicked together for them. and they recorded, confessed, demonstrate, from the corner of um, Walker Hill Road and Knott Street are people who had conversations about me that were criminally foreign, tactical delusions, raw identity theft, fraud, slanders, with foreign and domestic interbranch. There are collusions here, a whole bunch of different countries at once, all kinds of differences, racketeering worse than war crimes. These are names next to body dumping spots, other too. The body dumping spot of Billy Grasso is also increasingly involved with people with the next to the body dumping spot of the serial killer, not far from the stabbing reported at West Farms Mall, involved with people with that confessed they're people with the name Doobie. A Rich Doobie. I never saw him on a campus in my life. He's involved with the confessions of a Ray Colo and a Joe DeMar regarding a Rich Doobie and their roles in West Hartford locations, including with like near a title house. And the recorded confessed demonstrate confirmed involved with people involved with like a Lucinda Alderuccio, I believe was her last name. And then she married apparently reportedly. I never had a conversation with her in my life. They tried to make one fake exception real quick before we graduated in the cafeteria to make the fake exception to tie up their ends because they were all involved with predicate acts with people on my street from other areas. And these are some KKK, black theme, Latino theme, and a foreign and domestic military next to Central Connecticut State University and next to Trinity College, involved with my neighbors like Ray Colo and my past neighbors, Kaliza, and then they were using the name Lewis, where how they were influenced by abuses of them by police and courts too, that forced them to collusions with other countries and untimely deaths with people at Trinity College, involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and people planting evidences there with a Joshua Stryker, who also a whole bunch of people tied to the ones with the wire crimes and confessions of Weatherfield police over the phones regarding the name Colo. They didn't put the whole name to as part of the confession. They're obfuscating things consciously and worse. And they've been putting fake, they have people named Colo and people tied to them, involved with judges and prosecutors, planting evidence on my street with a whole bunch of people from other areas, involved with these people attaching me to fake conversations to doctors and to Weathersfield Police when I was a kid and then as an adult, as ones those doctors too, and nurses and people involved with the lawyers at Hartford Hospital and people at UConn involved with the intelligence through time, a whole bunch of different countries, overt criminal enterprises, private ones. They're not legitimately unmarked police forms with them and standing positions with them. These are with a whole bunch of different countries involved with putting fake things in transcripts and differences, racketeering worse than war crimes. They're refusing to identify themselves legitimately into branch. New Britain Superior Court, Connecticut's District Court, and Hartford courts had collusions with a whole bunch of people tied to Eric Burgess, who was a complete stranger, sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate all these things before the World Trade Center attack, and then after it. As his roles with people from Weathersfield, also with the military, intercities with that spot, though, has something to do with their roles with their educators, with themselves lying about themselves and others they never even had classes with behind their backs. Never even see them around campuses. Some of them try to make fake exceptions. These are also people with a marked violet at Hartford Hospital. Increasingly, people at Hartford Hospital and next to it are involved with, in other words, they're not legitimately with Afghan leaders and kids right through decades. And then with those instances, these are for further roles with World Trade Center predicate acts. And they have people with Koreans involved with them and that at the spots next to the state capitol. And I don't know the Casper family. They tried planting fake exceptions with people all along Route 175 and its conjunctions, like Ridge Road. People just driving on Ridge Road too. There are proofs. Brought up my name there because of the way that I recorded them using all natures of investigators. There are people at Hartford Hospital who forged names with this Leahy family and judges and prosecutors personally and professionally involved with them, with sexual offenders of kids and medical offenders years apart. The agencies have roles with all kinds of medicines crimes, while tactically delusions wrong. And putting just fake transcripts with people into databases, all sides of criminal and civil cases. There are people. One time they were influenced to make their picture scene with me in West Hartford, a Joe DeMoro and a Ray Colo. This is various ways recorded with their roles with West Hartford through time too. They try to make it fake, except it looked like I was there socially with them. I don't know anyone there. I didn't communicate with them there or anyone else when I went with them sometime to something in West Hartford Museum there, where they stay. In other words, they were influenced to make a fake exception. That's one of the things they've been confessed since I was a kid, as their roles of people increasingly tied to body jumping spots since before they were involved. With Oracolo moved into my house when when I was in fourth grade. Already, the intelligence families were involved with him, and with his family member where they used to live next to the state corrections offices are increasingly people with foreign and domestic military at and next to boxing gyms and next to people that had communications with them before and after the World Trade Center attack, who are involved with the campuses criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. There were also people that I believe it's that same exact woman too, that Sullivan woman in the news. I'm not saying any of that stuff is true. I know the news lies with as collusion slash death with names on all sides of criminal and civil cases at the same time. Now they have to hide that and have been hiding that and using all natures of crime scenes too. Rather than just follow mandated law, do what's right. Get me out for fake conversations with WFSB. These are the ones involved at and next to Fox Connecticut News too, through time, which is also next to the state capitol. And the differences of it immediately next to Fox Connecticut News or at the state capitol, that was is exploited too. When everyone's in the background pretending they don't understand what people say. Get me off the fake conversation with WFSB about a bunch of things, about the World Trade Center. Conversations that weren't at all. And they forced the principal child abuser by pretending other. They're still forcing more then and now involved. There's a Michelle Sanquest involved with intelligence families near me. I don't know where she lives or lived. And she's further involved with sexual and medical offenders of kids with the schools, her roles with the schools, and with WTNH with this. WTNH with the intelligence next to them, too, not just the FBI in New Haven. These are ones that, next to Parks, too. There's a Danielle Perron who recorded they communicated. They implied that they had someone take their picture to make a fake exception to pretend she knew me, and we had no communications. And there's 3 people that said they were her boyfriends in a park at night and years ago in Wethersfield, and people associated with that. Like there was a Tom Perron too, involved with people with the name Kerr too. I don't know the name at the corners of now, I never hung around with them at those shopping centers, but at the corner of Town Line Ride and South Street Highway, I only know Mike Kerr making confessions to me. Jerry and 2 Jerry Kerrs. There's an officer Jerry Miller who has 2 Jerry Kerrs and a Mike Kerr involved with them planting evidence on all sides of my house. Also with the Joshua Julian and more people involved with the principal upskirt nature and some other child abusers, leaders of the kids, and people that live on all sides of a religious spot, like a Kerr family, involved with judges and prosecutors, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with organized crimes with them, and with foreign and domestic families, and people all along Route 3 involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, also in the form of federal evidences, crimes, predicate acts, identity theft, fraud, slanders, child abuses. No, they're putting fake things, fake ties, fake natures of ties between kids. They're putting fake. They're having people act to record fake exceptions. I only know somebody Bajero seeking me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm. He's been planting evidences with judges and prosecutors. The same thing with Eric Oliveri, foreign and domestic, criminally foreign influence, all along Route 3, the state judicial branch officers, his educators, lying about himself and me behind my back, and with his educators and with other students to my family members. This is and with the news at the same time. They're forcing everyone to groupthink. They're lying and faking what's recorded. They have me with fake conversations with doctors. They forging doctors' names. These are increasingly people on Church Street in Old Wethersfield, and people tied to Copper Mill, and people involved with um other streets and with people that have been speaking in the town offices and with the YouTube channels of the people involved. There's an officer poisoning and further involved with sexual and medical offenders of kids while tactically delusions raw, criminally foreign influence, fact treatment, nature, racketeering, worse than war crimes. He should fear God now. I want to see his little coward face too. I know it looks like a little coward punk. Let's get these punks on paper with the interbranch forging and switching names. Let's go. Come on now, sweep the fake branches. Ball. And right there is see the law who disbelieve. This is why they have roles with the borders and the people at the borders and the people in the other countries, like the Mark Violet. His roles interstates with people with Rhode Island with state police, Vermont state police, Maine, Canada. These same people are involved with Venezuela, Mexico, as ones involved with the Scaloras, with the Morals, and the people next to Central Hartford Hospital with identity theft, fraud, slanders, with those businesses and the houses there, with names next to the campuses, intercities too. Offensive identity theft, fraud, slanders. They don't even know too. Sometimes, some way, because everyone's just attached to fake change communications about other people. They lie about what they think about what people say online. They call it, in other words, let's get them on paper, one name in sequence. So they all thinks about their section, about like to make fake conversations and responses to it, fake ties and fake natures of ties to the police who and the ones who did that with them, with the courts too. Like a Mike DeMay and my algebra teacher. There was 4 people in that class. A Mike DeMay and has roles also with Anthony Agman, has roles with a Joshua Julian, who had collusion slash S digital with sexual and medical offenders and people up with whiting forensics with state police, with digital and sexual and with crimes scenes with people with whiting forensics probably since before Joshua Julian was born. But he's also recorded involved with intelligence communities near me that recorded, confessed, demonstrated, and confirmed him involved with predicate acts with them. And he recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed the same without using their names. That's recorded on Facebook. These are also people next to the state judicial branch offices involved with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso and names next to that spot who are recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles with the news using the right and having used the rights to lie where they don't have the right to lie. Readings of statutes where they give rights to mayors to lie and politicians where they use it where they don't have the right to lie. People with the name Pienza have roles with murders and crime scenes and child abuses, identity thefts and fraud, slanders, criminally foreign influence readings of statutes and precedents regarding the right to lie and how they've been using it. They have collusions on the state corrections offices and judicial offices with people on 2 Route Highway, also next to those places, next to the judicial branch office, increasingly with their neighbors involved with body dumping spots, other too, as the ones involved with the serial killer's body dumping spot. And that person involved also with Sandy Hook campuses with more offenders of kids and rules with the gun ranges and people roles with Sandy Hook Promise too at the corrections at the state capitol next to it are people involved with all identity theft, fraud, slanders. People with the name Casper too have been planting predicate acts in databases per the campuses, including people at Hartford Hospital that refused me to speak to a doctor. And the guy said when I was cut off by one of them people tied to a Smith family involved with that Weathersfield Police Department where it used to be and where it is now, with people I don't know their names of, who are involved with a whole bunch of federal crimes, putting fake things in databases at Hartford Hospital, with various doctors tied to Anthony Agman too, who was put in my sophomore algebra class, where the algebra teacher repeated sexual things about a neighbor of mine, a girl, and about her intimate ties, and about her kissing him, and he kept repeating it, and about how it was Jewish themed, the sexual stuff. I didn't have no response. And then years later, after my class graduated, and the only reason I stayed back, the lady made things up with with students, people who are ones involved with Washington, D.C., and all along Route 175 from the founding locations in Old Weathersfield. Increasingly involved with predicate acts, identity theft, fraud, slanders, acting while others record things. Ones with the name Jamie Carone and Kevin Carone, involved with Justin Kovinskis and Eric Jensen. Eric Jensen recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed on Copper Mill. His roles with people that also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed he's involved with federal evidences on Copper Mill and on Church Street in Old Weathersfield, with people involved also with predicate acts and child abuses at and between campuses, putting fake ties and fake natures of ties between kids, and having acting tied to them, putting the predicate acts in databases with that. Little tricks like, in other words. So, in other words, these are people involved with like Hartford Hospital has an Institute of Living on the campus of Hartford Hospital, founded in 1822, with slavery still entrenched in northern colonies and southern colonies. The mental health care side of hospitals is involved with all kinds of natures of organized crimes and medicines crimes against the elderly, against little kids. And they're also attaching people to fake conversations with doctors. And then when they're in the presence, the ones who did that fake conversation with me, even when I was there and even communicated with them, they had also pretended they knew me before then too. And we never had, in other words, I can't get one person on paper. There's one doctor I asked to speak to before the World Trade Center attack or after the World Trade Center attack. And the one increasingly people tied to him have been forging name faking conversations with me. And I barely spoke with him long enough, and he was confessing things about his family. And then he begged me to take medicines free. I never went back to the guy. I don't even know his name yet. You know, he criminally foreign influence involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, leaking things. The intelligence community has all kinds of medicines crimes, drug crimes, and delusions that are relative. They have roles manifest into branch with names that are refusing to identify themselves legitimately. It will bring up what they were doing at West Hartford locations, the Harper Courts families, the New Britain Courts families, and the people with the Connecticut District Court, planting predicate acts with all sides of criminal and civil cases, and co-defendants of and as former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, former standing chairperson on the Racketeering Influence to Corrupt Organization Act, RICO law, and his co-defendants. Thaddeus Grabowski is one of the ones with an Allison Mulcahy. He involved with the domain, and the ones with the name Yagman. Increasingly with my algebra class teacher with the sexual planting evidences from other areas and from schools behind my back and in my face like a punk that's not even in my face while pretending other, in other words. And that's an algebra class, no. And I revealed, I wanted to, I cared, I was, in other words, AEIOU. There are people spying on me. I just said it real quick. Like AEIOU, it sounds like, IOU, A, E, IOU. And I said energy, in other words. And then the algebra class, she mentioned that there were theories regarding the history of English. But clearer than day, the history of English the telling of it has been influenced by having been entertained having been used remotely, entertained. Criminally foreign influence, fact, treatment, nature, quality, aspects, and nature. That the identities of names of the people of sciences have had and have been used. Has been used remotely. Criminal and seditious natures of positive treatments and negative treatments as timed collusion /S with predicate acts with facts methods clearer than day upon the people, sickly distinctly, but also sickly non-distinctly at all locations /S. That is why and is how suburbs that were designed before America's founders were born. And there were laws that had them entrenched. Internationally monitored conversations had it illegal to even be found to have been speaking about building infrastructure outside of internationally monitored conversation. And everyone wanted and needed the homes to be a little wider, a little safer. And everyone wanted and needed to have the earth, its identity relationship to itself, and the value of that, liberated from being and having been tactically denatured, designed for a torture, extortion, in fact, human nature slavery method of every single person. The only reason that gets debated and that gotten away with, at the same time, well, in other words, is relative to what nature communicates and what our founders communicated, having been replaced, being and having been replaced, and it's valued both ways. While people are pretending they could speak for practical reason, use Immanuel Kant's phrase, but regarding reason and what's practical proper, being led by what is true always, not by opinion. We have black people's whites of eyes that's true always. The identity of all things is demonstrated about difference, about similarity. It is showing us there are distinct species bodies of individual bodies, and they all have group differences generated by its own difference. But also now, from how we have been systems tactical from its own, with the evaluation of our short words, therefore, for example, let alone their projection, with sense and sensibilities, to use Jane Austen's phrase, regarding the syntax of other people. You guys will not allow other Americans to be honest about the extortion of George Washington, or it would have brought up James Madison's plan, how and why they had to force the other third of our founders with the Native Americans and the colonists and the Native Americans grouped with James Madison and as him and his plan to counter extort and force the other third as the rest of the Native Americans and as the rest of the colonists. They didn't just say, "Oh, well, let's go make a country." It was against the law to say anything near that. Our very founders did not have free speech. Even James Madison, once he was president too, he still didn't have free speech. And they left this declassified for us to decipher. It is already deciphered for us. We have to decipher where and how that is ignored and replaced. And self-value roles are. Because that was his using, in other words, also screening the motivations for it by using the real emotions too, as motivations only as apparent motivation. Like that's what they were trained at schools. Let's deal with the actual principles. Let's deal with the actual facts. And you're going to discern. I'll learn. Please. So J.C. Penney, I believe it might have been tied to that lady too with J.C. Penney. What's her name? The intelligence community has a lot of people named tied to a Claudia Scalora that know my name. I don't know her name. They're involved with West Farms Mall next to it, with the Joe DeMauro, with the World Trade Center attack, and spots next to the state corrections offices and judicial branch offices, with foreign and domestic military, and kids who lied about themselves and about others too, and with their educators. And the FBI director, Robert Luskin, and his co-defendants, their family members, and their neighbors involved with and as names next to the Harvard Hospital through time, next to Harvard and next to medical and fire campuses, increasingly all along Route 175 and Route 3. Robert Rodriguez, one of the ones who on my street sought me out to bring me as a stranger, to make a fake exception of knowing me, I didn't respond to him the first time or the second time. Then on Facebook, he confirmed it. He had shouted out about how the girl I saw him walking with the first time, she was dead from untimely death. Even if that was made up, he's involved with shopping centers and locations and names involved with a Daryl Chandler. And he reportedly has a sister also and other intelligence family members involved with him, intercities and interstates, and internationally with a whole bunch of different countries, people from Korea involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders. I never had a class with in my life. Tried to make a fake exception of knowing me when I was in ninth grade. He's involved with Newington intelligence too. There are proofs and locations there. Used remotely, criminally foreign impulse, tactically delusions raw. These are also people with Glastonbury. They just reported a woman was missing from Glastonbury. These are the same ones with sick things and people in Glastonbury, tied to a Mike Pandoff and a Scalora family with the intelligence family. Even if those are nice people or whatever, it's nothing personal. They're used remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, wire and mail crime roles, all sides of criminal and civil cases in the past, and depositions too. Use remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw to pretend things, the same things in the database with people that agree, don't agree, but it's an array as collusions. Screening also the foreign names in the hyperforeign, which is also recorded, that distinct identity of foreign that had and has the suits and ties, counters, and exceptions, still has an array of inclusions. Screening itself, screening the very scientific value of the human fact sheet nature breaching method that nature shows us that is one of the things true always, that slavery was valueless. For example, our founders also communicated that. Slavery was also communicated as by our founders as having been a human fact sheet nature breaching method tool. Roles with it were forced to an extent. Self-value too. Forced to free people were forced to pretend they had free speech with subject treatments to an extent. Otherwise, that body would be discerned, including if that body was the majority of people, including if it was everybody, not just of a colony, not just of the states, of the entire countries. And it's easily adapted to because the locations, areas, and states are still self-valued. Criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. Fact sheet nature, quality aspects and natures of collusion slash S with all natures of crime scenes, instances, all natures of instances, descriptions. People don't even realize it. The mass acting, all sides. The time where people are going to go, well, the only three branches of government, the certain type of victim slash hyper victim that is used remotely, showing they need to hide things past, active now, and to come by acting both sides. But when time where people are going to be, or just time, right when they walk by, you say that. And then you don't even know them. And they don't know you. Years later, that's built upon by others. They're putting predicate acts with facts methods in every database. I still haven't had a response for the confessions and the other things recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed with the proven child abusers, leaders, and kids years apart. And the one that I caught first before they put him in jail. And I caught him for worse. And more people involved with that, and security families involved with it too. What are they doing with Town Line Drive locations and the ones there with that? In other words, I don't even know all their names. Increasingly, people tied to Ray Colol involved in the Joe DeMoro and their educators. People from my grammar school that I didn't have classes with them, like them. Putting predicate. And I don't know if Joe DeMoro was in my fifth grade class. I only saw him there one time. In other words, something to do with Mr. Peruzzi, who was my fifth grade teacher, with people increasingly involved with body dumping spots at Central Connecticut State University, attaching me and others to fake communication, to fake ties, fake nature ties, and they spread lies about kids through other kids. They spy on us with other countries because at the same time they're involved with differences, racketeering, worse than war crimes, and the uses of their own and others to cover that up There are some black, white, female judges, including with male judges, involved with some black KKK, Confederate flag theme, Latino theme, Italian theme, Korean theme, Pakistani theme, Afghanistan. At the same time, they brought roles, and then again in the future. And these are people still ongoing, active, intercities, on the state corrections offices of Wethersfield, and the judicial branch offices, the ones involved with wire crimes, with the people named Kalala and Damar and Smith, Jamie Smith and David Smith and their mother. They have roles with a bunch of people at Harvard Hospital. They know my name, all their names. They're patients and criminals running to hide live aggressions with the doctors and the judges and their family members involved with this house, Cololo and Smith. And they're also, these are the police bringing this up and refusing to get on paper because they want to lie about what people, what they think of when people bring up other people's names that they brought up. They brought these names up. I don't even know what campuses they went to. It's because they live there and it doesn't mean I know anything about them. They try to make the opposite. They have roles with the Stop and Shop campuses, the Stop and Shops in Wethersfield and Hartford too, at the town lines in Hartford, Wethersfield, and Wethersfield, Rocky Hill. And other managers with that, since before it was Stop and Shop, also involved with Ray Clough with the state police, with Eric Jensen, his family members, the ones with the intercities, with the judges and prosecutors, people with Newington, the co-defendants, the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, their family members, their neighbors, involved with all kinds of predicate acts with the kids, with the databases, all kinds of natures of federal criminals before they were caught, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, little tricks, putting fake things in databases. They have a guy who used the name Bayrock, who's black. I don't know his name. Involved with people putting black with KKK, identity theft, fraud, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me behind my back in campuses. And we need to get them on paper, one name and sequence. Let's go. Whoa. Why you stop being cowards?